5, 10, 20 years back, how many of us have thought that the digital classroom, online classroom, with the new normal? We remember those days when we would be going to our schools. During the morning assembly, all our teachers standing in the front row. And that one eye contact with my favorite teacher and the smile in reciprocation will make my day. We start with our next domain, grooming, future educators, social emotional learning. And we take one trip down our memory lane, teaching as an emotional practice. Why did each of us chose to be a teacher? First. And the second is, which quality of our favorite teacher makes him or her our favorite? Years after leaving our school, they are still fresh in our memories. So I leave you for a couple of seconds with this thought, and we start with our session today. The reasons that would have appeared in front of you, that why you chose to be a teacher, and your favorite teacher, I'm sure most of those qualities are the ones which are not related to the academics, but how each of them made us feel. In the line of how these teachers made us feel, we introduce a concept, growth mindset. Carol Dweck coined the term fixed mindset and growth mindset. I'm sure most of you must be familiar with the concept. Just to move ahead, growth mindset broadly deals with underlying beliefs we have about learning and intelligence. It is not carved out of a stone. We can cultivate new skills with efforts as we are doing in the present session. When we believe we can get smarter, we understand that efforts make us stronger. And we continually make efforts to sharpen our skills. At the same time, a fixed mindset makes us believe that we are born with a limited set of qualities, intelligence, skills, which were pre-decided or determined in the early years of our age. And now we have to live with it. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. It's the growth mindset which helps us acquire new skills. As a teacher, that is our role. Neuroplasticity, as the name may suggest, something with plastic-like properties. But it is a unique quality of our brain. It refers to brain's ability to change and adapt as a result of experiences. The neural networks in the brain changes through growth and organization. So as an individual, if the environment is positive, motivating, encouraging, we do learn new skill sets. And these skill sets contribute immensely to us, not only as a professional, as a student, but also as an individual. Where growth mindset says that practice will help us improve. At the same time, neuroplasticity also supports the same idea. When the environment changes, effort changes, the learning also happens. So growth mindset as well as neuroplasticity are complementary functions. It is simply accepting the idea on a broader level and thus complementing each other. Any individual is capable of much more which he or she believes. An educator is the one who will make this belief firmer. As we talk about the educator's role in a classroom, we will be discussing the various techniques to implement social emotional learning in a classroom by the educator. As we discussed in our previous module about the CASEL's model of social emotional learning, I'm sure each of you can recall on your fingertips the 5 components under that. We will be discussing today the SAFE model for implementation. SAFE is again an acronym which stands for sequenced, active, focused, and explicit techniques for implementation and inculcation of social emotional competence in our students. sequenced. Now, what does that mean? All the students who join our classroom are at different levels emotionally, not only academically. So, SEL may be new to many students. As an educator, we begin with no assumptions, like grade 5 should be aware of this, grade 6 must be aware of all this. No. When we start about social awareness, when we talk about self-management, I think we can build from a very grassroots level. What do you do when you feel sad? Whom do you reach out to when you are excited? If you have been disappointed by somebody, what is your coping mechanism? It can be a recall technique for each of them, irrespective of whether we have discussed with them earlier or not. So, a step-by-step guide getting them familiarized with their emotions, feelings, social awareness, and other skills. We break down each skill into small steps, thus providing clear goals and opportunities. For example, a jar of happiness. As a teacher, we can create a jar of happiness where students just put up something at the end of the day which made them feel happy. They write their name and put it up. Maybe on the weekend activity, we can ask each of them to take out a slip from them. At the same time, we can have the clay activities. Irrespective of the age group, we have seen it is a very creative outlet. Through that clay, we can ask them to design small prototypes of the things which is a source of stress for them. Verbalizing it and creating it are two different things. The mindfulness breaks. Just closing your eyes and watching your breath can do wonders to our little ones. In our SAFE model, A stands for active. To model social emotional competencies, then to teach or preach them. Role plays and behavior rehearsals. I hope each of us remember that on the valedictory day, the school farewell, or on Teachers' Day, how our students on a very lighter note do those mimicries, where they are able to showcase those behavioral nuances of us as teachers, which takes us through surprise. If I give a small example, the tone of voice is as important component in an apology as saying I'm sorry. Somebody, an eye contact and a shine of excitement communicates everything beyond words. The sullen face again contributes that somebody is disappointed. The same way, another case, during a race, a child fell down and another one stopped to help him and thus lost the race. As an educator, how many times I stood this child who stopped and lost the chance to win on the podium and appreciating this empathy. Active role modeling is the key here. SEL cannot be a byproduct. A very focused, clear and dedicated plan need to be implemented. Using teachable movements. A slot once in a week dedicated to social emotional learning, I don't think is going to make much of a difference. But as we just discussed in neuroplasticity and growth mindset, the practice would make permanent impressions. They promote peer-to-peer feedback also. It's not only you who will always see something and give their feedback. Create those ambassadors of social emotionally competent peers. They are the ones who will bring that appreciation checklist. They are also the ones who will raise those very mild pink flags instead of a red flags that I felt that this friend of mine was rude. Again, a wake-up call for this child who would probably reply that I never meant it that way. But because I feel you have no right to deny that you hurt me. So focused approach is the one which we as educators need to do to ensure social emotional competencies being built up in our students. Explicit. Let's get open about it, that why we need to be aware of our feelings and emotions. I hope we all remember asking those questions, that whatever is being discussed in the class, how it is going to help me in the long run. As educators also, we must have all faced these questions from our students also. When students fail to identify the role of any content, any practice, any program, in the long run, how it is going to help them, they feel very frustrated. They fail to appreciate it also. Thus, whatever we discussed, whatever we introduce, it may be responsible decision making, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness. Why do we need it? How it is going to help them, not only as students, but in the longer run, as individuals, as professionals, as family members, as responsible community members, as very proud citizens of the country. So, explicit discussions about it is very, very important by the educators about each social emotional competencies. And then only students will be able to appreciate not only the role, but they will also make all possible efforts to ensure that these competencies are being built up, not only in them, but gradually in the people in their surrounding also. The SAFE model for educators of sequenced, active, focused, and explicit instructions can get safer when we also add reflections to it. Now, reflection is when we give sufficient time for students to reflect on how social emotional learning connects to other parts of one's life, thinking about the growth areas and how SEL can support and help them, what is working, what need to be improved. Thus, intentionally and seamlessly integrated social emotional learning into the teaching learning process is the key here. Every time, whenever any bullying is being reported in the class, when a child almost sobbing or in tears approaches you, when you see somebody not the usual excited one, just stop and ask them why you are not as happy as I find you every day. I have myself come across those experiences when just a eye-to-eye contact with any of my student and the child almost broke down in the class. I also have the teenagers which I teach here following me out of the class in their corridors when they have something to confide in you. I think SAFE is the model by all of us educators to work on the social emotional learning competencies of our students. That is how each of us will contribute to a much safer community.